Hi, I've just returned from the land where everything that doesn't want to kill you wants to eat your lunch, and decided to take a break from my business for legal reasons, and going to do a bit of trapping. Things have changed quite a bit since the last time I was hunting fur. I have a lot of experience skin hunting, but not a lot actually in trapping, because back in the day it was quite economic to use cyanide poison because we were hunting for skins. So there's quite a few things that have changed since I last did it. Now you have the option, and it's the summer at the moment, so we have the option of actually selling the fur, which means you have to pluck the animal of the fur rather than skinning it. The only thing about that is you have to actually trap the animal because you need it warm to pluck it. Whereas when you're hunting for skins, it's the other way around, and that was the advantage of cyanide. One of the advantages of cyanide was that when you come across the animal dead, the fur had already set, so you could skin it straight away. Whereas with trapping, what used to happen was you'd have to hang it in the tree and skin it the next day. And the way a trap line normally worked is you set your traps out and space them whatever you thought apart, a certain distance depending on the number of possums in the area, and you just go around your trap line every day and clear it. Whereas cyanide, you'd put out a line, go back 2 days later or 3 days later, skin your possums and kick your poison out while you're doing it, and you wouldn't go back to that area. So things have changed a bit now. There's quite an advantage in only having to hunt the fur, because a packed load of skins is quite heavy. If you've got 50 skins in a pack, it was probably as much as you wanted to carry. But sometimes you couldn't predict how many animals you're going to get off a line when you're poisoning. Sometimes you're surprised and you had 150 possums. Now you'd end up tucked down the front of your shirt and in your trousers and all sorts of stuff, in your pockets. Your pack would be full. You'd have them strapped to the outside of your pack if you got a big line, and so that was quite hard on you. Now with fur, you just sell it by the kilogram, so you pluck the fur out. Even a big line, you might only have 5 kilos of fur off the line, which is better than carrying 50. But the disadvantage is you when you're hunting for fur, you need it warm to pluck them, and so it just follows that you actually need to trap them and have them dead within 10 minutes is ideal, apparently. So that's new to me. So the unfortunate other thing that's changed since I've last hunted possums is now you can only use what they call humane traps. So what we used to use for traps is ones like this. You can see I've set it. It's the old gin style trap, and I don't know if you can see that, but it's got jaws on it with teeth, and apparently it was meant to be quite hard on the animal, but with possums it wasn't really that hard on them, because they used to get their leg caught in it. In fact, with these traps you could catch them by the leg, by the tail, by the nose, whatever, and it wasn't as inhumane as you would think, because generally they put their foot in it, get caught, jump around for a bit and then go to sleep. Quite often you'd walk up and just find them sleeping, and you could bash them on the head before they woke up. It was ideal. But anyhow, the law changed a couple of years ago, and now any traps bigger than what we call number 1 have got to have protected jaws, and number 1 traps are not allowed teeth in them. So these are illegal to use now. They're pretty useless really. There's not much you can use them for except hanging on the wall. The funny thing about this, I was around visiting an old friend of mine who I just keep an eye on. He's sort of in the middle stages of dementia. We're talking about the old days, and I've shown him the new traps. These are the new, what they call number 1 trap that we use. They're two-sided, got springs in them rather than sprung steel. And I was telling him, back in the day I just used to set these by just squeezing them with one hand and flicking the catch over with the other, sort of thing. And he goes, oh yeah, and I just pass him the trap, and he just, even at 80 something years old, he still just squeezes it with one hand and sets it with the other. Now I haven't got a show doing that at the moment because I've been sitting behind a desk for the best part of 10-15 years. So I've lost a lot of strength, but yeah, I was a bit embarrassed about that. And the other disadvantage I have is, you may have noticed, I've got a few fingers and stuff missing on one hand. So these traps actually require two hands to set them, which it's been a bit of a trick for me really. I've actually got to learn a technique of doing it. So taking into account my bung fingers, the technique I've developed for setting the traps is just to use actually the karate chop part of your hand there, and push down on both sides like that, and just sort of spread them open like that, and then just flick it down, flick the dog up, and just go like that. Now those experienced trappers out there will say you've got your hands in the trap, and I have, but what I do is I just keep the palms of my hand on like that, so if it's going to spring shut I'm going to catch it, and yeah, that's what happens. It's nicely set trap, all ready to go. So I've been busy, I bought several different brands of traps just to try them out, and the cheapest ones I bought are a bit useless actually. These ones here, they've got plastic on the jaws, and for some reason they're quite hard to set, and in fact some of them won't actually set at all. And these are ones made in China. They're quite cheap, pay about $5.80 each for them, inclusive of tax. So I probably won't buy any more of those because I'm going to actually have to go through them all and play around with them to get them to set. They don't actually need the protection on the jaws. How it works is, number one, traps you can just use plain jaws, but anything over that you've got to have jaw protection. So the answer to these cheap ones might actually be just take the plastic off the jaws and they might set a wee bit better. I don't know. I'm not very impressed with them really. I bought two other types. This one here, it's got protection on the jaws but it's a wee bit thinner, and these are basically the same as these, and they set quite easy. Well, easier. But when you get the traps and they're new, you have to go through them and tune them, which means basically you can see that trap there. It's quite a good example. You see the plate doesn't actually sit flat. I don't know if you can see that or not. Hope you can. And it sticks up from the level of the jaws a wee bit. So the idea is you want the plate actually sitting at the same as the jaws, on the same level. So I've had to go through probably about a third of them and just give them a bit of a tweak. And the other thing I've been checking on them is how much weight it needs to set them off, and just adjusting that as well. And what I've been doing is just been using, I've got a bottle of water here with about 500 grams or a pound, and I've just been checking that to see if it's the right weight. So that one there, I still have to tweak this one, but yeah, it sets off with that. So I think that's about right. I may have to tune them again later on. The idea is you need a certain amount of weight on the plate so that animals like rats and mice and stuff like that don't set them off, and birds. So the possums are quite a bit heavier than the rats and stuff like that. So it's sort of been worked out that you need about 500 grams of pressure, or a pound or whatever. So that's what I'm at the moment. I've tuned my first box of 50, and it's not too much work involved. Though, as I say, I had to do something to about a third of them, and two-thirds of them were pretty much spot on. So what you're aiming for is, you can see that one there. It's pretty good. You can see it's almost on the same axis as the jaws. That's ideally what you want. What happens is if the plate's sticking up too much like that, the animal will set the trap off before it gets enough of its foot in the actual jaws. So I put my hand in one of these to test it the other day, and it's still, I actually put my thumb in, and just to see, you know, what it would actually do. And while it didn't break the skin or damage your thumb at all, it was still quite uncomfortable. And the other thing I realised is you actually need two hands to open these traps. So I danced around for a while, and then decided I'd be able to use my foot to open it. So that's what I'm dealing with at the moment. Eventually I want to have about 300 traps. So what I've learned over the years from using cyanide to catch possums is that sometimes you put out a bait and there'd be, you know, 5 or 6 dead possums on it. And so when I set my traps, I'm going to work on the principle that, you know, when you set a trap, one possum gets caught in it. Now possums are gregarious animals, they associate well with each other, but they're also quite territorial. So what actually happens is one possum will get caught in the trap, and all his mates come around, laugh at him, point at silly old Bill there, and then go and eat the bait and take off. Now you might catch them a couple of days later or something, but what I plan to do is, in a good area, set my traps quite close together. If it's a really good tree, you know, I might set, you know, a couple of traps on the tree, and maybe a couple leading up to it. So there's plenty of traps to go around for all the possums. Now I'm doing that because I have to travel to where my line is, you know, a few kilometres. So I don't want to have to keep going back, you know, 6-7 days a week to my line. I want to go, you know, 3 days and have caught all the possums that are in that area, and then I'll move the line on, or give it a spell for you know, a week, and then maybe set it again, because possums are territorial. So once you've got rid of the possums out of one area, there may be some not quite such a good area, and they'll move into that area. So that's the technique I'm going to use. You'll get a better idea once I start setting up the lines and stuff of how it's going to work. Yeah, right. So for bait, I've got a big white bucket here, and it's I've used raspberry essence, a mixture of raspberry essence. I use raspberry fruit drink, just the powdered kind. Then I've got in it quite a bit of icing sugar. You can see that there. Quite a bit of icing sugar in it, and flour. Now the possums are attracted to the smell, but they're also attracted to the whiteness of it. So you just put a bit on the tree above the trap, and it attracts the possum. Also, I've got, for feeding them, when I spell a line, I'll give it a break for a while, or pre-feeding it, I've got a mixture here of, that I use, a few bags of this, which is peanut butter, peanut oil, and a few other things, a bit of flour, and it actually tastes quite nice, a bit of sugar in it, and a bit of raspberry, so it's pretty much peanut butter and jelly in it, and the possums do like that as well. So I'll put a bit of that on the tree because it's a bit more waterproof, so if it gets rained on it'll still attract the possums as well. And I'll use that when I'm spelling a line to keep the possums moving into the area. Yeah, so that's about all. Probably more interesting when I actually go around the line and just see what I actually get. You're sort of competing a bit with like 1080 poison, where they just drop it out of aeroplanes just to kill the animals, which is not ideal. Yeah, that's about all at the moment. I'll keep you posted on how I get on.